Hi, this is Terry Bach, and welcome to the It's My Time Now mini summit. Put together the summit so that we can explore how to have hope during this pandemic. And we were just talking about that a few minutes ago. I know that we're all kind of tired and burned out from all these constraints that we have. We want to be safe and we want to, do the right things, but what happens to our dreams? How do you keep those dreams alive? So whatever your situation are, just know that other women are feeling this way as well and losing hope that they're ever going to get back to that life that they really want. So I've brought some experts together to talk about their own experiences or experiences they've had with their clients on this topic of how to keep your hope alive during these times. So today I have invited Lisa Levine as our expert. Now, Lisa is a certified life coach and a health coach and the author of Midlife Crisis, an audacious guide to embracing 50 and beyond. She feels strongly that wellness is much more than just a trendy buzzword. Through her business, Audacious Health and Wellness, she helps women who are approaching midlife create healthy habits in the way that they think, eat, sleep, and move, empowering them to live their lives fully and audaciously. She really thinks of herself more as I love this term that you've come up, as a possibility coach, because really that's the ultimate goal of coaching, is to help people get unstuck and reconnect to the limitless possibilities that exist for every one of us. So welcome, Lisa.
Hi, thanks so much, Terry. I'm happy to be here.
I love that last part, especially because my tagline for my business is actually opening doors to new possibilities, because I do believe that we all have those possibilities. It's just a matter of, one, finding out what we want so we can go after them, too.
Yeah. And so many people I know in midlife feel like because they've hit a certain number or a certain time in their life that they're focusing more on the possibilities that they could have had as opposed to the possibilities that are still in front of them, even if they don't know what they are yet.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's why we're here. To talk about all of that. So you use the word audacious, it's in your business name and all of that. So what's the difference between aging audaciously, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, or aging gracefully? We hear a lot about aging gracefully. So what's the difference, and why do you think that matters?
Well, to me, I feel, well, first of all, I have a big love for the word audacious, which is defined as, one of the definitions is showing a willingness to take surprisingly bold risks. And that doesn't necessarily mean doing things that will put you physically in harm's way, but it means kind of having an attitude of, let's try this, or bring it on, or I'm game, or why not? And so I feel like there's something about aging gracefully, and this is just the way that I've seen it. It's almost like the way that we've been taught as women for generations, for decades, about kind of be quiet, keep yourself small, be a good girl, don't follow the rules. And to me, aging gracefully sort of smacks of that same feeling, which is, go shrink, go be quiet over there.
Right.
Let the other kids play. You've had your turn. Go be graceful. Go get old over there. And I'm not having it.
Go to the corner and get old. Yeah.
There's something about graceful that to me that implies
more refined, kind of. Yeah.
And audacious can mean different things to different people.
Sure.
And certainly, as I said, like my risks, what feels courageous or bold or audacious to me might be very different than to you or to somebody else.
Absolutely.
But it's really just keep channeling that attitude of, let's try this, I'm game, why not? As opposed to be quiet.
Right. Yeah. Maybe even getting outside that comfort zone and doing some things. Yes. Yeah. Good.
Absolutely.
Fun is. Yeah. So your book is Midlife Crisis, and I know we hear that term. It started out with men, and now it's kind of spilled over into, women's lives. And we're, at a certain age, we're having this midlife crisis. So how do we kind of get rid of that term? I know you did in your book, when it's such a big part of our culture.
Yeah. Well, yeah, my book is Midlife No Crisis for a
Mm-hmm.
reason, because I think that there are different times in our lives when we feel like maybe we're having some kind of an identity crisis. It can happen when we're younger too, but there's a really specific set of things that happen to women when we hit this age. And it does feel like a crisis because it's coming from all walks of life. It's coming from outside of us. It's coming from what society is telling us about aging women and how devalued we can be in society's eyes, because it's so much about youth and beauty and whatever. So there's that can feel like a crisis. And certainly, I've had a lot of clients and women, just friends, talk to me about feeling invisible as they get older. And that can feel like a crisis when we're taught that our currency in so many ways is about how we look. And then there is also about how our bodies are changing, hot flashes, the things we used to be able to do. I mean, I learned through trial and error that I really couldn't drink red wine anymore right around perimenopause, because it would keep me awake at night and it would give me hot flashes. And it was a lot of back and forth, like, maybe this time it'll be different. Nope, not different. It's the same. So there's, there's that part of that feels like a crisis too, because the things that have always worked for us don't work the same way necessarily.
Right.
And our periods can be all over the place and just crazy physical stuff. And then also emotionally, it is a strange time, can be a strange time, because if we have children, they're growing up and they're leaving home. And so, a lot of times we don't plan for that. We plan for, I'm having kids. I'm going to show up and be this kind of a parent. I'm going to shepherd them through this. And then all of a sudden they're, in high school, and you're like, oh my gosh, I see the exit ramp and I forgot to map the rest of the trip. Like, they're going this way, and then
exactly. And now where do I go? Yeah.
Yeah, that feels like a crisis. And then also sometimes for women who've been in the same career for a long time, they start to feel like, is this all there is? Like, is this what about these other dreams that I had? So it can feel like a crisis for all of those reasons. And yes, you're right. Midlife crisis was sort of a term that was coined about men, by men, at a certain time, I think in the 70s. I can't remember the exact.
Well, it was kind of an excuse to
get a younger model and a new car.
Yes,
absolutely. But so the reason why I like to consider it, and I'm sure you've heard this too, to start to reframe it and flip the switch and say, what if it's not a crisis? What if it's an opportunity? What if it's a midlife opportunity, a midlife transformation, a midlife awakening? There are so many other things, but we forget that we have the power to reframe that and to flip that switch, which is why the first thing I say in my work is that I help women in midlife change how they think. And that's the first thing, because so much of our what feels like suffering to us in our minds is coming from our minds. And guess what? We might not be able to change. We might not be able to change what society is doing, but we can change what we're doing and what we're thinking.
And we see it as we get older as more limits, because we're not, like you were saying, now I can't drink red wine. Now I can't do this. Now people don't even see me, things like that. Whereas, you're reframing it into a more positive. I always describe it as we've been in a fog a lot of our lives, doing things for other people, with not always an emphasis on ourselves for some people, some women. And so, it's like, not magically, but, at this age, women are starting to wake up out of this fog and say, hey, what about me? It's my time now. There's a reason I named this summit that, because it is our time now.
It is. What happens, and I don't know if you experienced this too, is that a lot of us will end up, like I said, hitting this particular time, especially, well, for me, when my kids were getting older, and I really didn't plan, like I kind of forgot. And so it was an opportunity to do what I call dream audaciously, and having set audacious goals.
Right.
And what happens is a lot of people go, I don't know what I don't even know what I want. Like
Exactly.
I don't even know. Dreams, I don't know what they are. And so for me, that's always like, oh, that's fun, because then we get to go in and explore.
And people often, I think that dreams, or having this dream life, or whatever that means, I'm trying to think of different ways of putting it so it doesn't sound like this airy fairy thing that isn't necessary, because I see it as very necessary. And I living a life without regret, because I want people to think about themselves at the end of their life, and what would you have regretted not doing while you were in your 50s or 60s or 70s or whatever.
Absolutely. You don't want to wake up at 75 and go, oh my gosh,
I know
things I could have done. But there are so many ways to go spelunking around in your, in your dreams and it, like in your mind, to figure out what it is that turns you on. And a lot of times it can start with a really small thing. I mean, I like to talk to people about, sometimes what I do with people who say they don't know what they want is to start by asking them, how do you want to feel? And to get really specific. So, or as specific as possible. And so I have like a list of feeling words that I often share with them, and, work on how do you want to feel? And then if for instance, that you want to feel that you want more freedom, you want to feel free, then we can even start with that. And what are the things that make you feel free in every day? Kind of go into that. So a feeling state is a good way to start if you don't think where you want to go or what your dreams are. And then another one that I use for myself all the time is lists of the things that bring me joy, the things that I love. And they change. And sometimes I just recently found a journal from 2018, and I was reading it, and my list, a lot of the things are the same, but there are some other things. There are things that I don't love them as much anymore. There are new things now that I love, or that I forgot. Like, puzzles. I love puzzles. I didn't think about puzzles till the pandemic, but now I'm doing puzzles all the time, and I love it, and it's super fun, and it's something I can do with my kids when they're home, and I love it. So just little things. And what I noticed about puzzles is that it takes me out of my head and it brings me present. And I do feel free when I'm, I feel a lot of things. Right. So even little things.
Yeah. I think for me, it was, I lived in Minnesota to take care of my mom. And after she died, then I had my wake up call, kind of like, oh, I hadn't really thought about what happens when I'm not a caregiver anymore.
Right.
And what do I really want now for my life? Because I didn't really have a plan. That's when I started thinking, and then this is my first step, is moving to the East Coast and thinking, because I had to think out, what did I want? What brings me joy? What are those things that are important that I'm not doing here in Minnesota? And they were like, I love to explore. I love history. I love meeting new people and doing new things. I wasn't doing any of that back there.
Sure.
So here I am, because there's all kinds of new opportunities for me here.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
I also found in that same journal that I had written lists of things I wanted to do in my, in the next 30 years of my life. And I'd forgotten that I had done that. And I went back, and there were still lots of things I hadn't done, but on that list at that time was write a book. And the book didn't even end up getting really initiated until a year after that. So I thought, oh, wow, I was a little prescient. And, I thought I want to write a book. And when I was making that list, I thought, just pull whatever you want out of the air. Like, what do you think would be a cool thing to do? And so sometimes it really does start with getting it out of your, the depths of your mind and putting it down in front of you and looking at it.
It does. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I know that wellness is part of what you do, and it is a buzzword that sometimes not bad connotations, but different connotations to it. And so what what do you define? How do you define wellness? And yeah, let's go with that.
I define wellness as a partnership between body, mind, and spirit. So I think it all works together. The way I was taught about wellness when I went to nutrition school was that there are two kinds of there's primary food and secondary food. The primary food are the foods that feed your life, your soul. They're your relationships, your hobbies, your spirituality, the way you move your body, those are your job. Those are all your primary foods. And your secondary food is the food that's on your plate every day. Well, if you don't have the correct primary foods, you often don't have a lot of energy or enthusiasm for the food that's on your plate. For instance, if you're working at a job that you just is taxing you, you're not really going to be like, what can I cook for dinner? You're just going to go and grab whatever is there. And it might not be the most nutritious food for your body, but you just don't have the energy anymore to deal with that. And vice versa, if you're eating food that's on your plate that isn't nourishing your body, if you're eating a lot of, prepackaged food, if you're eating a lot of junk, which, I have a whole diatribe about that, but I won't go there in a second. But if you're not eating food that nourishes your body, you don't have the physical energy to do the things that feed your soul. So maybe you are working a job that you don't love, but you really you're on a softball team and you love it, but you're exhausted, you go home, you eat whatever, and you just don't have the energy to play softball anymore. It's really just, it's a balance. So wellness to me is a balance between that and also spirituality too, because I think that there's something about, and it doesn't have to be about God necessarily,
right.
But it's your relationship with something bigger than you, I think, is how I would define that. And so I just think that is a balance. But I do know that wellness, it has gotten a bad rap lately because a lot of wellness practitioners, because it's a buzzword, practitioners and also marketing companies will use that word that will then disguise the diet industry as wellness. And to me, it's not about losing weight. Wellness is not about that. That is not what it is for me. Sometimes it's a byproduct of what happens when you start to change your life, but it's not the goal. And so that's kind of my opinion. In midlife, women have very specific wellness needs because of how much our hormones are shifting, and they're shifting all the time throughout. And so there's a lot of and also again, because of the things I said earlier, all of the other shifts that are happening in our world.
Yes. I know when you Google like women over 50, which I've done partly to find speakers, that what pops up is, weight loss and beauty tips and hairstyles. And it's like, really, is that what Google thinks we all were interested in? I mean, it's enlightening, but disappointing too. So
yeah, I agree with you. It is disappointing. And it's like so many things in our particular culture. I think it's really driven by commerce. I mean, I think that the companies, they have this money, they're trying to sell something, and that's their job. They're trying to sell something. That's okay, but they also know how to technologically how to create, this is not my strong suit, but SEOs and words, and they know how to get you. Okay, they know how to get you. And then once we start interacting with that, we as a culture, it's like a brainwash. We start to buy into all of that. And so I really want to help women step away from that and reclaim what an audacious midlife means to them.
Absolutely. And if you're feeling invisible and they're showing you this beauty tip or this hairstyle that's going to make you stand out, I mean, that does buy into that insecurity or that crisis that we're already feeling.
We're believing. I
that
think
we're
in
believing,
fact is that we're believing that it's a crisis, or there's some part of us that believes that still. Not everybody, but it's about.
But enough people do. Enough people and are talking about it, so then we kind of take that on too, unless you don't.
Unless you don't, but it takes some time to unlearn all the
it does
that we've been taught, and so it's really about patience, and in addition to sometimes being audacious is not just a willingness to take bold risks, but sometimes it's a willingness to start to disbelieve the garbage that we've been taught, about having an attitude where you can understand, wow, it's audacious to step away from this particular belief system,
Right.
and I'm going to create my own.
Yes. Yes. So in your book, and we've already touched on this a little bit, but in your book, you talk about how to dream more audaciously. Do you have more that you'd like to say about that, other than what you've said already about, making lists and things like that?
Well, some of the other ways that I talk about dreaming audaciously, it really does start with a seed, a kernel. And so, yes, there are making lists. Journaling happens to be a really big one for me. I like helping women, creating a vision board, whatever. And everyone is different. So some women will come and they will have kind of a dream already, but they just feel like it's an impossible dream. And so for those clients, we'll start to talk about how to work backwards to getting what you want. If this is what you want, let's go backwards, and then let's start with small steps. I think the biggest thing about dreaming audaciously is that it can feel overwhelming. One, because it's something that isn't happening yet and we don't know how to make it happen.
And it's never happened before. Yeah.
And it's never happened before, or because it feels too audacious. It feels too big. I can't want to write a book. Who do I think I am? Who do I think I am? I'm just, I can't write a book. And so working backwards. And for me, my book started with writing a blog, and I wrote a blog because I thought, oh, well, I'm a coach putting myself out there, and I should probably be writing and showing people, like who I am and what I'm doing. And it started from that. So anyway, I would say starting with the smallest steps possible. When you think you want to dream big, you don't know what you want, again, just go backwards, just little things. And we'll just start with, I think the biggest thing I would say to somebody is, how do you want to feel? If you really don't know what you want, you do know how you want to feel. And if they would say they want to feel happy, we'd have to break that down, because happy is a big word. There's a lot of words underneath that. And the more specific that you can get about how you want to feel, the easier it can be to locate the things that help you feel that way. And sometimes that's enough to start opening the floodgates. And other times I really like to encourage women to go way back into their childhood and in their 20s, the things that they loved, that they left behind, that they stuff that they thought they couldn't do. And again, I'll use myself as an example. I loved musical theater. I loved it. I was in all the plays. I had the lead role, in starting in the 5th grade all the way through high school. And I loved it. And I used to think I wanted to go into musical theater, but I think my parents convinced me not to do that. And I ended up studying something else in college, and it went away. And I thought, well, that's a dream that died. And then, cut to a few years later, a neighbor was starting a local theater group. And it was a musical theater, and she said, you should audition. And I said, I can't. I can't do that anymore. That was in 5th grade. I don't know how to sing. I don't know how to do any of it. And I kept thinking about it. And then I bumped into her again, and she said, Lisa, just come audition. Just come do it. And so I did. And it turned out I ended up getting an ensemble role in Guys and Dolls. It was the most fun. It was super challenging, the dancing, all of that. But I got to do that. It's not something I want to do with my whole life, but I got to come back, and it opened other doors for me. So even going back and mining your past.
And I think a lot of times we have those dreams when we're younger that we stifle, or we repress it, or we just think it's not doable. So, and my little story is that, I've been wanting to live in Italy. I want to go back to Italy and live there part-time and travel around, and, travel's really important to me. And I was recently going through some high school yearbooks. I don't know why. Well, because I was moving and I was getting rid of stuff. So I was kind of reading through what people had said. And my good friend in high school had written, I hope you get your dream of living in Europe. And
I love that.
Sitting at the outdoor cafes writing. And I'm thinking, that's exactly what I had forgotten that that was my dream years ago, and that it's still my dream, or it popped up again, you know?
Yes.
So
Oh my
that's
God,
my
that's
goal,
such a
is
good
to eventually
story.
get there.
I
Yeah.
love that. And that's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Sometimes it
Yes.
even helps to go back and you certainly looking at your books, but looking at photographs of yourself at a certain time and just
Absolutely.
what did that girl want? What made
Yes.
her happy? What was
That's a great
thrilling? And
idea.
maybe it
Mhm.
was gymnastics. Okay, I'm not gonna, I've never learned how to turn a cartwheel. And okay, I'm okay with not ever cartwheeling,
Right.
but moving my body, being
Yeah.
alive in my body. Now that is a
Yes.
goal that I can absolutely go for. So it might not be, headstands and roundovers or roundups, whatever the heck they were called.
Roundups, I think.
But
Yeah.
it might be something. Yeah, but it's definitely something that makes me remember what it feels like to be embodied, to be alive in my body.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. So
I
I know in your book, and I haven't finished your book yet, um, but you talk about gratitude, and a gratitude, like we all think, let's just write something, um, that we're happy about or whatever. But you talk about it in a way that goes beyond that, not just counting your blessings kind of thing, but really deeper than that. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. So well, there's a few things. I actually, this is the whole, that whole platitude of have an attitude of gratitude. But
Right.
I do think that there is something to that. And I do think that, well, so for, I can't even remember what I've written in my book about that, believe it or not, but I will tell you what I
Okay.
think about it right now. So,
That's
I,
fine. I won't hold you
part
to
of
it.
it, thank you. One of the things that I often do and that I talk to clients about doing is, instead of why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? One, trying to find out what's really in it for me. What's the lesson? What am I supposed to take away? Where's the gratitude in this situation? What's
Okay.
going on right now? Even if I don't know what it is exactly yet, what
Mm-hmm.
might it be? And so that's part of having an attitude of gratitude, I suppose. And then yes, there is something to writing things down. And one of the things I learned about the brain is we have what's called a negativity bias. Are you
Mm-hmm.
familiar with
I
that?
am. I
And
am.
so, which that means that our brains are wired, we're like to hang on to negative uh, situations or memories or feelings,
Right.
9 times more likely to hang on to those than the positive ones.
So if
It's almost
nine
like
people give you a compliment and one person criticizes you, that's the one thing you hold on to. Yeah, exactly.
precisely.
Yeah.
So to combat, to work, to help train your brain to go to the good place instead of the negative place, it's really about holding those positive memories and those compliments or the things that you are grateful for
Right.
in your mind for, they say something like 60 seconds, 30 to 60 seconds, where you're really meditating on it. So when you're writing a
Hmm.
gratitude list, it's not just writing them down. It's about
Right.
when you come up with something that you're grateful for, like, and it could be anything from your health
Right.
to the unbelievable coffee that you had in the morning. Like, take yourself back. If it's the coffee, just like remember it, savor it, really focus
Hmm.
on it. And the more you practice
Interesting.
focusing on the moments that are good, the more
Hmm.
easily your brain will be able to switch out of the negative and go to the positive. It's a practice, and
Wow.
you're training those muscles
And
essentially.
so something like 60 seconds is enough.
I think it's 60
So,
seconds.
okay.
Yeah, where you hold it, where you
Okay.
really think about it and you hold it. So not to add that, not to try to put one more thing on everybody's to-do list, right? I'm like,
Right.
I'm trying to meditate, I'm trying to I gotta write up on this. So, not do that.
Right.
What I really think this is not specifically gratitude, but it's everything. What I think, what I keep bumping into is that everything really is about coming back to the present moment. And so, for instance,
Hmm.
you can go back and remember that delicious coffee that you had, and remember the sun shining through it, the sky, and like you're so comfortable remembering all the things, but also when you're actually doing it. So I think, like, one of the
Yeah.
biggest takeaways for everybody, for me, is that we're so used to multitasking all the time, let's go back to
Yeah.
single tasking. Let's,
Exactly.
at least for a little while. So when you're drinking your morning coffee, because God, how many people do you talk to that say, that's the best part of my day is a quiet morning when I'm having
Exactly.
my coffee. So do that. And maybe for the first 2 minutes, don't read the paper. Don't
Mhm.
look at your email. Sit there
Right.
and savor that moment. Smell your
Yes.
coffee, look around you, feel your feet on the floor or your butt in
Mhm.
the chair or whatever. Taste it.
Exactly.
And the more
Mhm.
you do that, I think it is easier to get back to remembering the good things, how they feel, and
Mhm.
ultimately gratitude.
Yeah.
Your life becomes a series of positive things.
And it's actually kind of training yourself too to become aware and catch yourself when you're in it, because like you said, we're so used to just doing and multitasking, and we're not savoring that one moment at a time. So train
Yes,
yourself to be able to do that.
everything is vying for our attention right now. That is that
Yeah,
our attention is the big commodity. And so
exactly.
reclaiming that and for ourselves, and I think that that feeds into a life that has more filled with gratitude. Now that might not be exactly what I said in my book, but you know,
I won't call
I
you
don't
on
know.
it.
I don't know if it's quite right. So I would encourage you to get the book. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you can read what I
Yes.
said. I can't remember. Oh my goodness.
So the last question I have for you is, what's the number one advice you might share with somebody who's really struggling with transitioning into midlife?
Hmm. I think the number one piece of advice that I would give would be somewhat what I just said, which is about coming back to the right now and being in your body as much as possible.
Right.
But more importantly, remembering that you're not going to be able to fix and change every single thing all at once.
Yeah.
It is overwhelming because when you start to trip around the things that are, oh my God, this stinks and this sucks and I got to fix that, it does feel like a big heap of unpleasantness.
Right.
So put it down. And if you must, pick up one thing at a time to work on.
Mhm.
And then while you're picking up that one thing, I would encourage you, and again, this is sort of like gratitude, keep the good stuff on, right? Step away from the yuck. Pick
Yeah.
one thing you might want to change and bring over a whole lot of yum.
One of the things I do too, in addition to a bunch of other things I've done, is I like to read. So
Mm.
I find stories. I like to read. I like to do fun reading too. And so I find women, like for me, I love to travel. And so I try to find as many books as I can about women over 50 traveling.
Oh, great idea.
Yeah, and it just puts me into this frame of mind where I start to really see the possibilities. And I'm on a Facebook group on Facebook that it's for women over 50 who are traveling solo and loving it.
Oh, fantastic.
Another thing that, I got like, I really want to travel, but most of my friends don't like to travel. And so now I'm thinking, well, what's wrong with me traveling alone or meeting people somewhere? Or, I mean, it just really has opened up my possibilities of what I can do by reading what other people are doing
Oh,
too.
I love that idea. That's a great idea. What are you reading now? I'm just curious.
Um,
Or what have you read
I read them
recently that
on
you
my
love?
Kindle, so I can't always remember the names. This author I found, she did one about this woman in her 50s going to Tuscany
Uh-huh.
and being there. And now this other woman, she's younger, but she's in France. She's in
Okay.
Paris right now. And so it's just, and I've read a bunch of books on, I'll give you titles because I can't think of the titles at the moment, but I specifically like the ones in Italy, of course, because that's where I want.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, people who just kind of give up everything here and move over there for a, short period of time and just their life. It's like, ooh, I want that.
And maybe they end up curating retreats for other women in their 50s who want to come to Italy.
And
I
that's
think,
what I want to do. That's what
yeah,
I want to do.
good.
But yeah, so anyway, that's one suggestion too, is reading if you're a reader.
I love it. That's a great idea. I might have to borrow that and share that with my clients.
Okay.
I like it.
So I know that you have a free gift for us, Lisa. So do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So, as a free gift to all of you, I am offering the introduction and first two chapters of my book, Midlife Crisis. And so that way you can kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about. And I hopefully, my intention is that you start the book and you start to remember that it is this time of incredible possibility, and that you do get to turn around and turn the crisis around into an awakening, a transformation, an opening, a midlife renaissance for yourself. And the first chapter is perspective is everything, and the second chapter is letting go of who you used to be. So that is my gift to you. And also the thing about this book that I love, I did it with a company called Indelible Imprints, and they did the most beautiful illustrations. There's quotes.
Wow.
The colors are really lovely. So it's a fine thing to get on your Kindle, but I do recommend actually getting the book, because it's just the kind of thing that can live by your bedside and that you can pick up. My intention again with the book was, because midlife can feel so overwhelming, it's like little bites of things. So the chapters are kind of digestible, easily digested. And,
I love that.
you can pick it up and you can get maybe just what you need to, feel connected to possibility for the day.
Good. I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you. And for the audience, just so you know, you just have to click on the button below this video and it will take you right to Lisa's gift. Lisa,
Yay.
thank you so much. I really enjoyed our conversation today.
Me too. Thanks for having me, Terry. This has been terrific.
You are so welcome. And for the audience, just a reminder to keep checking your email for the next expert who will appear, who will be sharing her perspective on how to keep your hope alive during the pandemic. So bye for now.